Hello and welcome to this very special Eurogamer After Dark. Ian, you joined me from Paris, where
That's right.
You and Eurogamer editor Tom Phillips are at the Switch 2 press thing.
First time hands-on for anyone, yeah.
You've tried a lot of the stuff that they actually announced in the Direct. You've got first-hand experience of that. The machine itself, from some of the footage that you shot of you guys playing it and playing with the actual handheld unit, the first thing that strikes me about it is that it looks like a really premium thing. It looks really solid and really nice to hold in a way that I don't think the Switch ever was. Am I barking up the wrong tree?
No, it's definitely... The thing about the Switch 2 is that I found the kind of design and holding it and using it to be like slightly underwhelming. I didn't find it felt like a brand new console. It just felt like a shinier, nicer Switch, which it kind of is.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like just about as weighty as a normal Switch. The Pro controller is nice to hold and feels a little bit like the normal Switch Pro controller, just with an extra C button on. You know, the graphics are slightly better and stuff. It's a sequel to the Switch. Like, as a piece of kit, it didn't really blow me away like the jump from the original Xbox to the Xbox 360 did, like that kind of big SD to HD kind of jump. That being said, it is a cracking piece of kit. We've got these wonderful upgrades on visuals and performance and storage space and all manner of things that will make your previous Switch games look better and give you good new Switch 2 games to play. But honestly, the console itself wasn't that exciting. I think the main things that are good talking points for this are the C button and the chat connectivity and the mouse functionality, which are both brand new to the console.
They've kind of reinvented stuff that is already out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not Nintendo innovation as we've come to expect it, but that's fine. Games have existed forever now. Nothing's new, right? That's great. But the mouse functionality, right? Do we want that from this? Do we want that? And it doesn't seem like it would be particularly good mouse functionality or particularly ergonomic. And the one game that really showcases it from what's been revealed in the last sort of 48 hours is Drag X Drive. And according to our editor, it's not fun.
No. So ergonomics is a good starting point. I've played, and I'll go into these a bit later, but I played the Metroid Prime game and I played Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour with the mouse thing. Yeah. And yes, it is a mouse, and yes, it is very responsive. It does everything you want a mouse to do, but it's really thin and it is uncomfortable to hold.
Yeah,
and
I would have assumed, yeah.
And Tom Phillips played Drag X Drive, which is kind of like Speedball 2 meets the Paralympics meets, what's that remote control car one? The football one.
Rocket League, yeah.
It's like a mishmash of those, which you think should be really cool. And I think if you were just using a proper controller for it, it would be really cool. But the way you have to slide your arms backwards and forwards to move and stuff, it just feels gimmicky and uncomfortable. Tom said his arms were really tired after he did it. He said probably you need a bit of practice to get good at it. We were given 5 minutes on each game almost. So, it's learning as you go real quick. But yeah, he found it very awkward to play. And it just feels like one of those games that is made to promote the mouse functionality, to go, look, we've got a game that does mouse functionality, and then people will play it for 5 minutes and never play it again.
But do you think it might be a bit like ARMS or something, where it's clearly built with that hardware in mind, but there is there is like a genius to it, because a lot of people bounced off ARMS initially, but then a lot of people really got into it because they found a lot of like there was an intricate game there. I don't know.
Well, I really liked ARMS.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't have time to try this one, so I'm not sure, but it doesn't look like it has anywhere near the depth of ARMS. Tom played a 3v3 match between him and 2 other players on his team, 3 other players on the opposite team, all at the event. And it just looked a bit messy and clumsy. Like, even though you say people bounced off ARMS, I can't see it having a dedicated fan base. I can't imagine a bunch of people, having esports events going. It just feels like sense. It feels like a gimmick, a forgettable thing.
The thing is, I want to get behind it because I love that this is essentially wheelchair basketball. And I love that somebody's made like a sort of futuristic looking sci-fi sports game out of that. It feels like a really nice kind of representation thing.
Yeah,
so I feel
absolutely.
I feel mean if saying it looks a bit pony, but it does actually look a bit pony. It looks like a tech demo, and
it does a bit.
But
what doesn't look pony, and what was looked very, very good, was the new Metroid Prime game, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And that has mouse functionality as well. But the cool thing about it, right, you have the left Joy-Con 2. You can hold that normally, and you use your left stick to move around. And then you hold the right one down in the mouse style, and you mouse aim. If you lift your hand up and hold it normally, it just goes back to normal controller, and you can put it back down, and you can go back to mouse controls. So I tried both, and controller aim is a lot slower than the mouse aim. Like it feels a bit uncomfortable to use, and it could just be like training my hands to do it and finding the buttons. Like you have to press like Y to turn into the morph ball, and like A to pick up health and stuff. And it's finding the new positions for your thumbs for these things. But you can aim much faster and much better with the mouse thing. And I almost preferred it just because of the speediness of the movement. I felt like the mouse controls there worked a lot better. I don't think it feels as comfortable as a normal mouse. So I don't think PC owners who love mouse and keyboard are going to be like, oh, I'm going to go to the Switch now. It's got a mouse controller for first-person shooters. But it's, it's a nice, novel way of doing it. I like the fact that you can, unlike Drag X Drive, it's not just limited to these mouse controls. You can swap backwards and forwards whenever you want. And it feels nice and precise. And there was another game I played, which I'll go into a little bit later, but it was the Nintendo Welcome Tour game. And that has a couple of mini games that tutorialize you in how all the new features work. And there was just a very simple game where basically you have a UFO as a mouse pointer, and you just have to move it around to avoid spikes. Super simple, but it felt really smooth. Like the Joy-Con glided nicely across the surface, and it felt like it was always precise. And I mean, precision, in terms of precision and control, it's great. It's just how it's going to be used in games. I feel like it's going to be one of those things where few launch games, a few third-party titles are going to like use it, and then 6-7 months down the line, no one's going to be like, none of the developers are going to be using it like for anything.
Well, this happens a lot with the console launch, doesn't it? Like, think about the really fine haptics in the DualSense and how very few games actually seem to make really full use of that.
So I was confident in myself that maybe we'd see like an announcement of a Mario Paint game, a new Mario Paint, something that kind of validated having a mouse as a new bit of functionality.
Mario Maker, right, would be...
Something like that would be great
fit for that.
But at the moment it seems like it's just sticking a mouse thing on there to have something different. Like, it doesn't seem like it's got a killer app for the mouse, like, so it's got Metroid you can aim with the mouse if you want, but you don't have to. And you might get a few of those things, but I can't, unless Nintendo like launch a Nintendo Excel spreadsheet game or something like that. I don't know what they're going to use it for that people would actually want
Don't
to
put
use
it
it
past
for.
them. If Miyamoto gets on it, they could make that brilliant. Like, do your taxes.
That's true.
It's a bit of a mixed bag as a piece of hardware, but it's a sequel to one of the best consoles of all time. It has most of the same library, and it's going to have more of the same library going forward. So it's going to be great.
No, the standard console itself is great. I love it. I have one pre-ordered. I want it, but I'm never going to use the mouse stuff.
One thing I did want to ask, they've confirmed that it's an LCD screen.
Yes.
Nobody expected there to be an OLED version straight out off the bat, because they're definitely going to bring out an OLED version later on.
Absolutely.
But LCD has come a long way. It's not quite like it used to be, where an LCD screen would have really rubbish black levels. I know you were in a very brightly lit room, but from what you could tell, what was the screen quality like?
It was good. Like, I'm not the best at judging screen qualities. My OLED original Switch looks great, and I didn't think it looked any worse than that. I think it looked, but the thing is, I didn't get to use it in handheld very much. Like, literally one race of Mario Kart World, and it was like crazy lighting and stuff. I played it in docked mode mostly, and Metroid Prime looked awesome. That was in performance mode, I think. So it was 1080p but 120 frames per second.
Oh, nice.
And it looked great. Like, it looked really nice and really smooth and everything like that. So, like, in terms of docked stuff, looks great. Handheld wise, I don't think it looked any better than my OLED or any worse, but I'd have to have them both running at the same time, I think.
It's such a nice piece of kit. People have been waiting for it for a long time. There's a few things that are a little bit iffy about it. Like, for example, it's the money involved, right? All these accessories, the games they're talking like 80 quid for box copies. The camera add-on, which you're going to want for game chat. The Welcome Tour game we're talking about, which is, I mean, it's an interactive, like, instruction manual showcase piece. Like,
I can't believe they're charging for that.
I can't
believe
when Astrobot
was free with the PlayStation 5, Astrobot's Playroom.
Astrobot was much more of a game, let's face it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've played this Welcome Tour thing, like a demo of it. I think I got like 8 minutes or something with it, and it's bobbins. It's terrible. You literally, it was a demo. There wasn't the whole thing there. There's probably a lot more depth to it. But you're this little person, you walk around, you press A next to a question mark, you play a little mini game that might show you how the mouse functions work, or like, there's one where you can shake the maracas and you can feel like the beans inside the maracas with the haptic feedback and stuff. And then there's other bits where you walk around and you just like listen to someone tell you about how good the karts are, and then afterwards they give you a quiz of 3 questions to see if you have been paying attention. It should be built in. It shouldn't be a chargeable thing.
So it's like they made a theory test for it.
Yeah. It honestly, like, maybe like a tenner, but any more than that, like, it should have been bundled in.
Click
free.
the mouse every time you say a hazard. There's a suite of like free and paid upgrades for certain games. They showed a few things, but the Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild upgrades do look incredible, and they actually look like those games were. I always felt, even with Breath of the Wild, that like this game was designed with much better hardware in mind. They managed to get it working on the OG Switch, which was quite an achievement, and it was great. It wasn't. I don't think it was rubbish on the old Switch or anything. Patently not, because we all loved it, but I think most of us did feel like, oh, this is really like struggling to run this. Wouldn't it be great if we had something better? And obviously there's naughty people out there who have got those games running at much higher fidelity via various means that we won't go into. I don't know how they're going to gatekeep the sort of if you run the original Zelda Breath of the Wild on Switch 2, would it just not let you unless you pay for the upgrades? Or is it going to run slightly better at a more consistent frame rate? Who knows? These are questions that we're not going to know until we got it in our hand.
Yeah, no idea.
I really hope the upgrades aren't too much. Like a tenner seems reasonable. It's clearly like work has gone into it. I don't believe that those sorts of things shouldn't be charged for as a rule. I think it, obviously, people need to be paid. But being Nintendo, is it going to be like 30 quid?
Yeah, and if you've got like 10 like games, you got the Mario Fury, Bowser's Fury, you got Mario Odyssey and stuff like that, and then you're having to pay to upgrade all of those as well. It's like,
well, there are loads of games that will have free upgrades, and I think Mario Odyssey is one of them. I'll have to double check that. So there's different things going on, but I think there'll be like a smattering of like basic sort of frame rate boosts and stuff, and then there'll be like actual premium upgrades like with Zelda, because that looks like there's a lot going on there. But the thing that struck me about the Direct is that all the Nintendo stuff looks incredible, and it's really smooth and it's beautiful, and it's clearly been designed with that hardware ceiling in mind, and they're getting everything out of that machine that they need to. And then every time they showed us a third-party game, it looked ropey. Elden Ring looked rough.
It did look a bit rough compared to the PS5 one.
Split Fiction looked really rough. It looked like it was running on low.
I'll tell you what, though, in the auditorium, the biggest cheers were for the GameCube games, Silk Song, and Duskbloods. Those are the three biggest cheers. Like, they got bigger cheers than Mario, like the new like Kirby games, got Tumbleweed and stuff. So people are excited for like third party and retro stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're right that they still look like, even with the higher power of the Switch 2, some of these bigger games like Elden Ring still do look like they've taken a bit of a knock. And I've got to talk about frame rates a little bit more, because I don't know if you saw the bit in the presentation about the chat functionality.
That is like the big USP for this machine, right? And I feel like it is absolutely laser targeted at Gen Z, Gen Alpha, because like the way it imposes you on your game footage in your little kind of 4-screen kind of windows where you're looking at everyone else's, the way it imposes people onto the game footage, it looks exactly like TikTok, and I'm like, this is like meant to directly appeal to like basically my kids, right? They'll be all over that shit.
So I'm fairly cynical about it, because this feels like something that was invented during lockdown, when everyone had to be together, like couldn't be together and wanted screens, and now we're not locked down anymore. I don't know how many people are going to want it. I'm never going to want to buy the camera and call up my mates. Like, maybe I'm not the target audience and go, hey, do you want to stick your face on Mario Jamboree? Maybe it's just for young kids and families and things. I don't
know, man. Like, I've got young teenagers, 12, 15 and 18-year-old, right? All of their socializing is done on Discord.
Oh, really?
Like, all of it. It's either done on Discord or it's done in Minecraft multiplayer.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's the kids who are wrong.
Kids don't go to the park anymore, man. So I feel like this is absolutely tapped into the kind of socializing they want to do.
Maybe it is. It just reminds me of back when I got my Xbox 360 camera and I used to play Uno, and whenever someone won, like, it would bring up their camera feed and it would just be some dude jacking off, like... It's like chat roulette in Uno. I know that Nintendo have locked it down, so they've got lots.
They've definitely got. Haven't they got? I can't remember which game it was, but didn't they have really sophisticated, like cock drawing recognition software. I
Yeah, I
wonder if
think
their
they did.
wiener recognition software can
Like,
kick you from the game if you get your knob out.
you imagine just like they must, like, they're really tight on this kind of stuff, so they
Oh
probably
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
have lobbies, public lobbies with cameras. But imagine you just go on a public lobby on Mario Jamboree and one of the faces is just someone's dong. Like, that's what happens in Edo.
It's definitely, it's going to be like based around a friend code system, I imagine.
Yeah.
So it's going to
Yeah.
be like a very locked down version of Discord.
Definitely.
But
I
I
just,
feel
when
like,
I saw it, I was just like, I did this like 15 years ago with the Xbox 360 camera. And
yeah.
so I'm really not sold on that chat functionality. I know a lot of people are, but I'm kind of cynical about it.
It's once again, it's one of these things where Nintendo have kind of reinvented the wheel a bit. I feel like there is wisdom in the way they've packaged it together. Like I say, they've got that thing where it looks a bit like TikTok, and I think that's a really deliberate choice. The idea of it, pretty sound, and I think it does tap into how young people socialize these days, right? I'm saying this as a 40-year-old man, right? But I do, like, I have kids, like, you know, pay attention to what they do sometimes. So it does strike me as something that's been well thought out. But as you say, the frame rate, I actually found it really difficult to, because when you had the pristine Mario Kart footage running at 60 FPS and it was smooth as hell, and right underneath it you had this like 12 FPS like camera feeds from other people.
Again, from the auditorium, when they first showed that, I heard people go,
it looked rough and very difficult to, I wouldn't be able to concentrate.
I want my gameplay to be full screen. I don't want it to be slightly smaller with other bits down the bottom. This is just me.
No.
Like, again, I'm not a young kid that watches TikTok. Maybe that's, you know, maybe they like that kind of stuff. But I just, not for me, that chat functionality. I won't be spending £50 on the camera.
That is a point, actually. That whole, having to make your own gameplay smaller, I suppose, you know, that's not going to work very well in handheld mode when you've got a much smaller screen anyway. And also, like, so it feels like it would be best on a big screen, especially when you've got that big camera on a pole and everything.
Yeah.
God, they really should have built a camera into the thing, shouldn't they?
So the camera isn't very big. It is actually quite small. Visually on the trailers and stuff, it makes it kind of look a bit bigger than it is. It is the neck of it, the stem is very thin, and it's just a tiny little black camera. So it's not going to take over your room or anything like that. It's fairly dinky. The conclusion I've come to from this event is that it is a wonderful piece of kit. I really want it as a games console and to play Mario Kart World and everything like that. But all of the extra, like, Nintendo gubbins that they've done, like the detachable Joy-Cons are great. You know, that the magnetism and stuff, that's fine. It's something they did on the previous one. That was a good, like, Nintendo original thing to do. I'm just not sold on the mouse. I'm not sold on the chat functionality. I probably won't use them very much. I don't think there's going to be much use for the mouse, aside from a few mini games and like early launch games. As an actual successor to the Switch, I think it's awesome. I really loved it.
If you actually got to the end of this, thank you very much for sticking with us.
Two old men ramble about the Switch.
But yeah, well, one of these old men has actually had a go at it. So, you know, we've still got that access. We're not totally irrelevant.
Not yet. But we do have some more videos about the Switch if you want to check them out. Jim and I will be chatting about Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong. I can't remember. It's Donkey Kong Bananza.
I see what they've done there.
Yeah. So yeah, why not check those out after this? But don't forget to like and subscribe and stuff as well.